The M4 Sherman, officially a medium tank, M4 was the medium tank most widely used by the United States and Western allies in World War II. The M4 Sherman proved to be reliable, relatively cheap to produce and available in great numbers. It was also the basis of several other armored fighting vehicles, including self-propelled artillery, tank destroyers, and armored recovery vehicles. Tens of thousands were distributed through the Lend-Lease program to the British Commonwealth, Soviet Union, and other allied nations. The tank was named by the British after the American Civil War General William Sherman. The M4 Sherman tank evolved from the M3 Lee, a medium tank developed by the United States during the early years of World War II.
And here's a new American tank, the first delivered by a famous motorcar firm of Detroit. It's another step forward in democracy's bid for mechanical supremacy. 28-tonner. The armament includes a 75mm cannon.
The M3, also known by its service names Grant and Lee, was characterized by a unique design that featured the main armament mounted in a side sponson. The Grant variant, used by British forces, employed a lower profile turret based on British design, while the Lee variant, used by the United States, retained the original American turret design. Despite the M3's effectiveness, the tank's unconventional layout and the limitations of its hull-mounted gun prompted the need for a more efficient and versatile design, leading to the deployment of the M4 Sherman.
To many of us, one tank looks much like another. But here's the new all-welded General Sherman tank, which is an improvement on its predecessor, the General Grant. Note the all-round traverse of the gun turrets. A 75mm gun firing from a turret which revolves in a complete circle puts the Sherman in the forefront of the newest models.
The M4 Sherman retained much of the mechanical design of the M3, but it addressed several shortcomings and incorporated improvements in mobility, firepower, and ergonomics. One of the most significant changes was the relocation of the main armament, initially a 75mm gun, into a fully traversing turret located at the center of the vehicle. This design allowed for a more flexible and accurate fire control, enabling the crew to engage targets with greater precision than was possible on the M3. Additionally, the M4 featured a one-axis gyro stabilizer, which, while not precise enough to allow for accurate firing while in motion, helped keep the gun roughly aimed in the direction of the target when the tank came to a stop. The feature proved useful in ensuring the tank could quickly take aim after halting to fire, enhancing its effectiveness in combat. However, by modern standards, this system was relatively rudimentary compared to some more advanced stabilizers. The development of the M4 Sherman emphasized key factors such as reliability, ease of production, and standardization. The US Army and the designers prioritized durability and ease of maintenance, which ensured that the tank could be quickly repaired in the field. A critical aspect of the design process was the standardization of parts, allowing for streamlined production and the efficient supply of replacement components. Additionally, the tank's size and weight were kept within moderate limits, which facilitated easier shipping and compatibility with existing logistical and engineering equipment, including bridges and transport vehicles. These design principles were essential for meeting the demands of mass production and quick deployment. The M4 Sherman was designed to be more versatile and easier to produce than previous models, which proved vital as the United States entered World War II. It became the most produced American tank of the conflict, with a total of 49,324 units built, including various specialized variants. Its production volume surpassed that of any other American tank, and it played a pivotal role in the success of the Allied forces. In terms of tank production, the only World War II-era tank to exceed the M4's production numbers was the Soviet T-34, with approximately 84,070 units built. On the battlefield, the Sherman was particularly effective against German light and medium tanks during the early stages of the war. Its 75mm gun and relatively superior armor proved an edge over the tanks fielded by Nazi Germany during this period. The M4 Sherman saw widespread use across various theaters of combat, including North Africa, Western Europe, and Italy.
After their stubbornly contested advance through the last few grimly defended miles before the Gothic line in Italy,
units of the 8th Army enter the outskirts of Florence. Even so, the Germans still offer stiff resistance, though this can only cause the useless destruction of historic buildings, and the fall of the town is a foregone conclusion. Tanks nose their way forward towards the city and the enemy. The foot sloggers are never far behind. The Nazis, in spite of their crocodile tears about Florence's art treasures, not only defend the city, but pour shell fire over its ancient roofs. The smoke in the foreground is caused by enemy guns shelling Florence's only remaining bridge, the famous Ponte Vecchio. The other 5 bridges have been blown up by the Germans to delay our advance. The Allies press on to consolidate their hold on the southern half of the town below the River Arno. British, New Zealanders and South Africans share between them the honor of forcing their way into this first part of Florence proper.
It was instrumental in the success of several Allied offensives, particularly after 1942, when the Allies began to gain momentum following the Allied landings in North Africa, Operation Torch, and the subsequent campaigns in Italy and France. The ability to produce the Sherman in large numbers, combined with its operational flexibility and effectiveness, made it a key component of the Allied war effort. The Sherman's role as the backbone of the US armored forces in World War II cemented its legacy as one of the most influential tank designs of the 20th century. Despite its limitations, such as relatively thin armor compared to the German heavy tanks like the Tiger and Panther, the M4 was designed to be both affordable and adoptable. Its widespread deployment, durability, and ease of maintenance ensured it remained in service throughout the war, and it continued to see action even in the years following World War II in various conflicts and regions. The M4 Sherman remains one of the most iconic tanks in military history, symbolizing the industrial might and innovation of the United States during the war. The first production of the Sherman took place at the Lima Locomotive Works and was first used in 1941, with many early vehicles reserved for British use under Lend-Lease. The first production Sherman was given to the US Army for evaluation, and the second tank of the British order went to London. Nicknamed Michael, probably after Michael Deaver, head of the British tank mission in the US, the tank was displayed in London and is now on exhibit at the Tank Museum in Bovington, UK. In World War II, the US Army ultimately fielded 16 armored divisions, along with 76 tank battalions. A third of all Army tank battalions and all 6 Marine tank battalions were deployed to the Pacific Theater of Operations. Before September 1942, President Franklin D. Roosevelt had announced a production program calling for 120,000 tanks for the Allied war effort. Although the American industrial complex was not affected by enemy aerial bombing or submarine warfare, as was Japan, Germany, and to a lesser degree Great Britain, an enormous amount of steel for tank production was diverted to the construction of warships and other naval vessels. Steel used in naval construction amounted to the equivalent of approximately 67,000 tanks, and consequently only about 53,500 tanks were produced during 1942 and 1943. The Army had 7 main sub-designations for the M4 variants during production: M4, M4A1, M4A2, M4A3, M4A4, M4A5, and M4A6. These designations did not necessarily indicate linear improvement, in that M4A4 did not indicate it was better than M4A3. These subtypes indicated standardized production variations, which were often manufactured concurrently at different locations. The subtypes differed mainly in engines, although the M4A1 differed from the other variants by its fully cast upper hull with a distinctive rounded appearance. The M4A4 had a longer engine that required a longer hull and more track blocks. The most distinguishing feature of the M4A4 was the wider longitudinal spacing between the bogies. M4A5 was an administrative placeholder designation for Canadian ram tank. The M4A6 had a radial engine as well as elongated chassis of the M4A4, but only 75 of these were ever produced. Most Sherman subtypes ran on gasoline. The air-cooled Continental produced Wright R975 whirlwind 9-cylinder radial gasoline engine. M4A1 produced 350 or 400 horsepower. The M4A3 used the liquid-cooled 450 horsepower Ford GAA V8 gasoline engine, and the M4A4 used the liquid-cooled 370 horsepower 30-cylinder Chrysler A57 multi-bank gasoline engine. There were also two diesel engine variants. The M4A2 was powered by a pair of liquid-cooled GMC Detroit diesel 671 two-stroke inline engines that produced a total of 375 horsepower, while the M4A6 used an RD1820 that produced 550 horsepower. A 24-volt electrical system was used in the M4. The M4A2 and M4A4 were mostly supplied to other Allied countries under the Lend-Lease. The term M4 can refer specifically to the initial subtype with its Continental radial engine, generally to the entire family of 7 Sherman subtypes, depending on the context. Many details of production, shape, strength and performance improved while in production, without a change to the tank's basic model number. These included stronger suspension units, safer wet, labeled as W, ammunition storage, and stronger or more effective armor arrangements such as the M4 Composite, which had a cheaper to produce cast front hull section mated to a regular welded rear hull. British nomenclature for Shermans was by mark numbers for the different hulls with letters for differences in armament and suspension. A for a vehicle with 76mm gun, B for the 105mm howitzer, C for the 17-pounder gun, and Y for any vehicle equipped with horizontal volute spring suspension. The Sherman was extensively supplied throughout Lend-Lease to Britain, the Soviet Union, China, and France. Britain received a whopping 17,181 Shermans in various numbers, mostly M4A2s and M4A4s, 5,041 Sherman 3s and 7,167 5s, respectively, of which over 2,000 were re-equipped with a more powerful gun to become the Sherman Firefly. The Soviet Union was shipped 4,065 M4s, of which 1,990 M4A2s with 75mm guns and 2,073 76mm arm versions M4A4s. The Free French were the third largest recipient, being given 755 Shermans during the 1943 and 1945. 157 Shermans were also delivered to the other US allies, while more Shermans were given out to various US allies after the Second World War.